how would you improve Spotify? For today's interview, we're going to go over a question asked by Spotify, which is a product sense or product ideation question. And the question is, for you, Ari, how would you improve Spotify?
All right. That's a fun one. I love Spotify. I've used it for a long time. What I'd like to do first, Omni, is let me just jot down some thoughts. And just as a note for people that may be watching this, it's totally okay to take some time and just, write down your thoughts and make sure that you're getting off on the right foot. So let me just write down some thoughts for myself, and then I'm going to come back to you and we'll talk about this if that's okay. So when I think about Spotify, I'm not perfectly sure what their mission actually is, but I would have to say it's helping creators to share their art. I think that's really what it is at the end of the day. And so when I think about that, and I think about, well, what's a metric that I would want to choose? I would say content growth by new creators. So that would be the metric that I would choose. Does that sound like a sensible metric to you, Omni?
Yeah, would you be able to define a little bit more the content? Is there a specific type of content? I know Spotify does.
You could imagine if you're doing things like music, it could be hours, minutes, just count of new creation, new content being uploaded, let's say. You could imagine it's like new artists, and I'm thinking things like podcasters, for example. How many new podcasts or how many new podcasters are they actually getting? But I think if I summarize just what that all amounts to, I don't think that, and now I'm putting on the hat of I'm a product manager at Spotify and thinking about like just what would I do, blue sky to improve it. I do think it would just have to be the amount of content at the end of the day with that, and then we would drill in and look at pieces of content by creator and things like that. But I think any of those things could be true, but if we don't just see kind of up into the right movement of overall content creation, it would be hard to sort of declare victory on a product like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So now when I'm thinking about the personas who we would want to actually build for, you have everything from Madonna and huge artist Joe Rogan on the podcasting side to smaller indie artists, and increasingly I've been seeing friends of mine who are not really podcasters even just starting new podcasts and kind of uploading their content. And so there's a wide range of content creators and personas that we could think about. And for purposes of this, I'm going to focus on, I guess, the supply side, like the actual creator side, and not so much the consumer side. What we like to say, like the whales in the industry or the jumbos. I think I'd rather focus on the long tail, which I feel like is more aligned with the mission as I see it for Spotify, enabling the smaller artists.
Yeah, that looks good to me.
Okay, cool. So the next step I'd like to do is if we align on let's call it small podcasters. Let's think about the pain points that a podcaster has and some of the use cases that they might need to work through. Can you just give me a moment? Let me just think about this for a moment and come back. So, okay, there's two areas that I think are the most obvious to me for a small podcaster to think about. There's how do I create my content and kind of make that good, make it production quality? And then there's another one, which is just distribution. And when I'm thinking about Spotify, this is really a distribution play. And I don't think that Spotify, I'm just thinking through, do they want to be in the content creation or the sort of production side of it, and I don't think so. I'm just thinking about the needs of a small podcaster, and I'm thinking about the metric that we're going for here. And it does seem like growing my audience would be the biggest pain point. Hey, I'm a new podcaster, or indie artist. Like, how do I get distribution? And I think Spotify is like, okay, that would be a great platform if I could just upload my content. And I'm going to assume there's enough tools out there on the production side that that could help me solve the how do I make the content good for uploading. And then I would rely on Spotify for the distribution aspects of it. So I think in terms of the pain point, that would be the biggest pain point to focus on for this podcaster. Does that seem like a reasonable approach, Omni?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I was just wondering if we could also add, I know you mentioned that this will depend on Spotify algorithm, but another pain point of small advertisers being able to be seen, right? The algorithm is going to favor the big ones because listeners will love to hear about Joe Rogan, maybe a little bit less about someone less known.
And it's a good question. I don't know if I can place ads to drive distribution on Spotify. Do you happen to know?
You too, actually.
Do they?
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's an obvious way to solve that, but I think you're asking maybe a deeper question about if you don't pay for the content. Again, as a small user, it's not clear, or a small creator, it's not clear how much budget I would necessarily have for it. So maybe in one of the panes, when we're actually thinking about the distribution panes and like one of the use cases, I think those come together in the sense that, well, okay, I can upload into this awesome platform similar to YouTube, but how will I ever beat the Joe Rogans of the world who just are obviously going to be massive players. I think in the solution section is where I would want to address that and see if we'll have to get adoption into this thing to begin with. So maybe that would be a good place to actually a good launching point into thinking about some solutions for this problem and how those might play into this broader problem of competing against the bigger players.
Yep.
So let me take a moment and just think about some solutions to actually solve this problem for a moment. So I'm thinking of a few ideas here, and I'll go through each of them and convince myself in talking through it that some of them are good and some of them are maybe not good. So we'll see how we go. But what I'd like to do, Omni, here is just I'll go through. I wrote down 2 or 3 ideas, and I'll talk you through the way I'm thinking about it. And then what I'd like to do is put them through kind of a framework just to prioritize them and see what actually makes the most sense on them. So the first one that I'm thinking is, and again, just to re-anchor, we're talking about small podcasters here and how do we actually solve the problem of getting them distribution. So we're going to assume that we've got as Spotify that we're an attractive platform for them. So what can we do to help them grow? The first idea is recently I've noticed that Spotify has launched a DJ, which is kind of like an AI system that gets to know me and my playlists and my history. And so it basically picks the music based on the time and the day and whatever else goes into that algorithm to select some stuff for me. So I could imagine a world where the DJ system that I've used, and I'm assuming it's the same for everybody, and I'm not part of some experiment, but it's all music, and it's all mostly just music, like kind of mainstream music. And I wonder, is there an opportunity for me? This is now on the demand side, but I think this could actually be a tool to help on the supply side. It might be interesting for me to be able to tweak the DJ and have include content that's maybe podcasts, new podcasts. Like I could imagine a set of toggles that would be given to the user to then just go through and say, hey, show me new stuff. Show me, don't show me new stuff. Filter out, for this kind of content. I want short podcasts that are 10 minutes long. I could imagine just a set of toggles that would enable that discoverability. More so than what I'm seeing today in play with the DJ, where it's just basically pulling in mainstream content. And so when I'm uploading content as a small creator, maybe there's parameters that I can put in on that metadata that I would put, to potentially make it more relevant and findable in the DJ side. So that's one idea. Let's call it the like customize my DJ idea, I guess. Now, when I'm thinking about listening to podcasts, one of my observations, and now the pain point for me as a user in consuming the content is, I'll listen to an hour-long podcast and there's, 5 nuggets of like cool stuff in there. I have no way to find that, apart from jotting it down on a piece of paper, which is just laborious and doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think what I'm aiming for with this is a broader breakdown of the content. So it's not Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan's 100 million plus users, but how do you actually make this more of a meritocracy of ideas? And I think the way maybe to break that paradigm is by breaking down the content into smaller just pieces, clips, essentially. I guess that's actually what I'm talking about is, can you break the content into clips and do that in either a user generated way, or maybe you break clips in an AI kind of way, so that you're offloading that effort from from users for doing it, or for creators when they're uploading their content. So I guess I would break that sort of annotation system into 2 parts. One would be like a manual annotation system, and the other one would be maybe like an AI annotation system that would kind of auto cut things into clips. And the more I think about that, like the AI system, that could actually be, I'll bet there's pretty clever and low effort ways to do that. I haven't thought deeply about this, but we could go down that if we wanted to. But I actually think there would be a pretty good set of hooks that you could use and maybe experiment with to break up that content into clips. And so what I'm now imagining is a world where you have not the Joe Rogan podcast, and so a DJ surfacing Joe Rogan's latest thing, but maybe clips that are really interesting and tied into my preferences. So I really like, I don't know, new tech in the health tech space, and so you have some Joe Rogan podcast, or maybe not Joe Rogan, some like indie person who really goes deep on this topic, and they have a 10-minute or a 5-minute clip. I would love to find that, and I really have no way of doing that today. And so if a system could get built that would do both those things, that'd be pretty cool, because I, as a user, would consume more of that content. And I would probably be willing to share those clips on Twitter and other places, but more importantly and more relevant to what we're talking about, that's a good way that I, as a small podcaster, could actually start getting traction. So let's call that second idea, maybe it's let's call it clips, and that's got 2 flavors, a manual clips and an AI clips. And let's maybe go with the third very straightforward option, which would be something like promoted content, a banner at the top of Spotify, like, hey, new podcaster Sunday, or new podcaster relevant to you, Omni. And maybe that would be the third idea here.
Awesome. Great.
So what we'll do now that we have 3 or 4 ideas is let's go through a prioritization, and we'll do this very like a very straightforward prioritization. let's think about three dimensions. What's the level of effort that we think is involved in building out this system? What's our confidence that this is a good idea, that it'll actually move the metric that we've been talking about, which again is content creation, growth, and what do we think is actually the impact of each of these on that? And so obviously the effort, we want lower effort, and we want higher impact and higher confidence. So what I'm going to do is let me just think about how each of these might play in, and I'll come back in a minute. Okay, so I'm going through this, and I'll just run you through like how I'm thinking about each of these, and then we'll go through the just what the trade-off is going to net as. So again, effort, confidence, and impact. So when I think about the clips idea, I think that's a fairly high lift, just given that there's going to be on the manual side some degree of new UI and flows and things like that are needed to actually build that framework out. You're going to have to figure out how to actually, what do you do with all that new data coming in? I do think that my confidence is high that it'll actually work. And I think the impact probably medium high over time. But I do think the effort is probably a pretty big lift to get that going. On the manual side, also on the AI clip side, obviously there's going to be a lot of experimentation and work needed to actually figure out how do you do that, how long, what do you actually clip on? Are there natural ways to do that? Can you do this purely algorithmically, or do you actually need the metadata from manual? So I think the lift is high. I think the impact is high, and my confidence is pretty high, but the effort is pretty high. Integrating that content into DJ, which is our second idea. Again, today the DJ is not really customizable. I think that's a high effort to actually build that out. You're including new data that isn't music in the first place. That could get pretty crazy. Confidence, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how people want to use a DJ for consuming, for just kind of auto playing through content that they haven't like put into a playlist. So I could see that could go both ways. I'm not sure whether it's a good idea or not. So I'd say that's kind of like a medium low on the confidence. And I think the impact, if it works, could be high, but it could also not be high. And so I'm not very confident that that's a good idea. The promo banner definitely seems like a low effort kind of thing. This is a known pattern. I believe there probably already exists some machinery for doing a banner today in Spotify. Actually, I know it does because I've seen banners before. So my confidence is high that that kind of thing works. I think some of the details would have to get worked through in terms of is this a paid banner, a natural banner? I'm not sure that solves the overall problem. You only have limited real estate, and you have a long tail of these new podcasters to show content to. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work. But I do think it's a very low effort lift, pretty high confidence that it'll work. And the impact, probably not huge, but I think it's something in that direction that you can learn from. So if I were prioritizing these, I would put the promo banner first. I think we could run with that, get that out the door right now and learn. And then followed by clips, which I feel high confidence is a good idea, but I think there's some question marks about what the mechanics would look like. So we'd have to do some more thinking about that. And then the integrating into DJ, actually, I would put third for the reason that one, I'm not fully confident that the DJ is a good idea for podcasts. But second is that I think if we built out the clips infrastructure to begin with, my intuition is that would be a more palatable way to include content that's sort of cut up in the DJ. We could probably learn a lot faster and a lot better than just running full podcasts. So that's my intuition, but I think that could be a follow-on step depending on how the clips works out. So so that's our idea. So let me just quickly summarize where we've been, where we're going, and where we netted out here, Omni. So we were talking about the metric overall that we wanted to focus on, which was kind of long tail content growth or overall content growth from small podcasters. And we believe that's aligned with Spotify's mission. Then we went through a set of personas and some pain points. And so where we netted out was on podcasters, small new podcasters, and getting them distribution. We then talked about and growing their audience. We talked about 3 ideas: integrating into DJ, building out some clips functionality, and including some interstitial or some promo banner that would then surface that content to users. We went through a rubric about prioritizing this content, and we netted out that the promo banner would be our top idea, easy to get it going, easy to measure, and pretty low effort, followed by building out some clips functionality and then testing the DJ as the third one. So yeah, that's where we're at. Thank you.